Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming, and thanks for you on the web stream for joining us today. It's really my pleasure to be able to present the activities of more than 120 people that are members of the FES Center. I'm going to update on what we've been doing in the past year, and I think you'll see that it's been a very good year. I'm going to present a number of initiatives that we've started in the past year or intend to start in the coming year that I think will make our future even brighter than it is right now. So that's the agenda for today. Before I launch into sort of the achievements and plans, I just want to take a minute and talk about what the FES Center is. So functional electrical stimulation, or FES as we call it, is the delivery of small coordinated electrical currents to neural structures. And many of the organs of your body are controlled by the nervous system, or at least influenced by the nervous system. So potentially, we can impact a huge range of body functions through electrical stimulation. A lot of those organs are subject to disease and injury, and we endeavor to use electrical stimulation to improve the lives of people with those disorders. So we are the FES Center, and this is the technique that we use in many of our studies. So over the past year, we went through an exercise, and we updated and tweaked our vision and mission statements slightly. They're not much different than they were before, but you'll see that they've really just been updated to reflect a broader mission that we have. But they still start and end with positively improving clinical care of the people that we serve. So I'll come back to this a little bit later in the presentation about the process we went through to reach these. But these you can see these on our webpage as well. The FES Center is a consortium. So it was started almost 25 years ago. Hunter Peckham is here in the front. He was the founding director and the director for all but 3 of those years. And it's a consortium of the Department of Veterans Affairs, both the local medical center here, the Lewis Stokes VA Medical Center, and also the central office VA, the Rehabilitation Research and Development Service, who funds the core activities of the center. We also have 2 other partners here in town, MetroHealth Medical Center, which is across on the west side, and Case Western Reserve University, where we are today. So I'm just going to say a few words about the role of each one of these institutions in our center. As I said, the VA is an important member of the FES Center for several reasons. First of all, they were there at the beginning. We shared their mission in terms of rehabilitation. They provide us with $900,000 per year in core funding that runs the operations of the center. Many of our investigators have merit review funding, career development awards, research career scientists. We have pilot projects. So this funds a lot of the research that I'll be talking about today. The Lewis Stokes VA Medical Center, which is shown here on the top right, has been almost completely renewed in the past few years. It's beautiful. It's a fabulous medical center. As part of that update, the FES Center laboratory spaces have also been completely renovated. Beautiful, great facilities. Very recently, the administrative offices for the VA, for the FES Center moved over to the VA Medical Center as well. So we now have the administrative core there as well as the research core for the FES Center. MetroHealth Medical Center has also been part of the FES Center since the beginning. We have laboratories. Historically, they've been on the main campus and in the outpatient facilities. Now we've been slowly moving over to the old Brooklyn campus. We're still kind of split between the 2. We have staff support from MetroHealth Medical Center. They give us, we've been really important collaborators with their clinicians from the beginning. They have a strong rehabilitation focus, and there's a very large investment in the FES Center and rehabilitation that has resulted from the activities of John Che. So, and Hunter Peckham, who in the MetroHealth Rehabilitation Institute of Ohio. So the FES Center will be a critical part of that activity, and we look forward to the continued cooperation, collaboration with the people at MetroHealth. Case Western Reserve University is the academic home of the FES Center. So we have a number of faculty that are from Case that are also FES Center investigators. We've had many students go through our graduate programs, both as master's students and PhD students. We have a training grant from National Institutes of Health, the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering, that is sort of joined at the hip with the FES Center. We leverage a number of activities of the FES Center for training purposes, and it brings vitality to the center that we would otherwise lack. The Case is also the technical home of the FES Center. Many of the development activities, the devices, the electrode development, the more scientific portions of our work go on the Case campus. We also partner with a number of other organizations that are part of the Case community, the CTSC, the Coulter Translational Partnership, Biomedical Engineering Department, and a number of other groups on campus. So that's kind of the structure and our institutional partners. Maybe most importantly, the FES Center, as I said at the beginning, is 120 plus people. We have 52 investigators, which is an enormous number. They're actually exactly split down the middle between scientists, engineers on the one hand, and physicians on the other hand. That gives you some idea of the kinds of work that we do. We have also a number of fantastic staff members, engineers with decades of accumulated knowledge. We have physical therapists, occupational therapists, a number of people who do the day-to-day work in the center. We have administrators that provide services that I'll talk about in a few minutes. And we also have a number of trainees, 17 PhD students currently. So there's a few people that are new this year. Eric Shear, I saw walk in. Raise your hand, Eric. Eric is a new faculty member at Cleveland State University in mechanical engineering who's joined the FES Center. Gustav Van Aker, is he here? He's a MD PhD who recently joined the group over at Metro. Chris Anielski, Carrie Karutz, Becky Riffle, Tevin Kloksinski, I hope I got that right, and Erica Woodrum are also staff members that have joined in the past year, so welcome. And finally, our participants are obviously critical. Without them, we would be unable to do our research, both practically, but also the kind of feedback they give us. They really become part of our team. So we've had hundreds of people that have had a variety of neurological injuries and disease that have volunteered their time and put up with a lot of hassles, and in some cases, sort of surgical procedures. Most of the time, not for themselves, but for people in the future. So we really need to keep them in mind. They're critical members of our team. Just a few more things about our structure. We have what's called the FES Council. This is the institutional leaders from across our consortium who get together and talk about making sure that we are aligned with the missions of our consortium partners. These are deans. Jeff Dirk is here, I see. Thank you, Jeff. The chiefs of staffs of the hospitals and the vice dean for research in the School of Medicine. Hunter is the chair of that organization. We also have an executive committee that meets much more regularly, about once a month, and we talk about tactics. We talk about the sort of ongoing activities in the center, the decisions that need to be made on a more routine basis. And this includes myself, Mary Ann Richmond. I saw her come in. She's here. She's the chief of the spinal cord injury unit at the VA. Greg Nemunitis is her counterpart at Metro. Jamie Knutson is here. Jamie is the associate director for regulatory affairs. He's at Metro. Kevin Kilgore is here also. I saw Kevin. Yep, there he is. He's the associate director for technology development. Ken Gustafson is here also. Yep, there he is, the Associate Director for Research and Education. And Cameron McIntyre is also here. I saw him. Where is he? Yep, he's the Associate Director for Industrial Interactions. So these are the group that I meet with regularly to run the center. And before I move on to activities in the center, I just want to talk a little bit about our consortium. You know, I learned a lot of lessons from Hunter, and one was to try to collaborate with across these institutions. I think the Cleveland research community in general has benefited tremendously from interinstitutional collaborations. The CTSC is a good example. The Case Comprehensive Cancer Center is another. There are a number of cross-institutional groups. We are currently in discussions with university hospitals to have them join. That's been moving along quite well. And it hasn't escaped my attention that the other big player in town is the Cleveland Clinic. We've had a few initial discussions with them. We already have a number of investigators at both of these institutions as members of our center. So it's a natural progression. So those will be hopefully forthcoming in the next year or so. Okay, so I told you who all the people are and how we all relate to one another. I'll just say a few words about what we actually do. Okay, so we have all these institutions. They have their missions. They support their faculty and their clinicians. So first of all, we provide global leadership in neurostimulation research. This has been true for a long time, and we work very hard to maintain that and to expand it. And that takes a coordinated effort across our institutions, across different disciplines. We also provide a community. Many of you are here today because of what the FES Center has become to represent. We have an amazing group of investigators and staff across a number of different disciplines, and the FES Center brings them together into a community. And finally, we provide added value both to the investigators and to our institutional partners. So when I say added value, we do things that cross the institutions that our institutional partners do not do. So I have a list here. I'm not going to go through all of these, but we basically facilitate clinical impact. So that provides value both to our investigators. It improves their chances of funding. It produces some uniqueness for our clinical partners. So like I said, we have 26 physicians and 26 engineers and scientists. We bring them together. They do really unique things. We facilitate collaborations across the departments, across the institutions as well. We try to enhance competitiveness. So we have investigators that develop technologies that are unique, that are made available to our investigators. We do things to help each other be competitive. We review each other's proposals. We talk about the concepts that are going to go into those proposals at an early stage. We beat each other up internally before we send it out. We provide regulatory support, things like investigational device exemptions to the FDA. We do human feasibility trials, which is a very unique thing in an academic setting. First in human kinds of activities. We also try to communicate the kind of work that you do, that we all do, both to each other. We have internal seminars a couple times a month where we basically keep in touch with each other. We have a fantastic external seminar series that we almost always co-host with another organization in Cleveland. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We have a brand new website, which I'll show you as well. And we do a lot of outreach, both in the local community and across the country. We've spent a lot of time on career development of our investigators, young investigators, mid-career investigators. We give opportunities for people to learn about leadership roles. And finally, as I kind of mentioned before, we do interinstitutional administration, which can sometimes be very difficult. So it enables us to share staff across institutions. The budgeting for grants is straightforward, and we can do things like purchasing as well. So just at the nuts and bolts level, it removes a lot of the friction that would otherwise happen. Okay, so I'm going to talk about things that we've done in the past year. So I'm going to start with outreach. And I said at the beginning that we went through a process to sort of reevaluate who we are. We're a big, sprawling organization. You know, we have 120 people. We're scattered all over the place. We all have pressures from our home institutions and other things that take away from our focus. So we hired a consultant, Julie Krebs, virtual brand advisors, to go around, interview a number of the investigators, interview people from the outside, interview other people from the community. And we asked them questions like, you know, what do you think the FES Center does? What should it do? A number of questions like that, just to figure out what people think we are and what we think we are. So the goal of this, at least in my mind, there were two. One was internal, so it was to help us all understand what we belong to. Like I said, we're big and sprawling, and I think the FES Center means a lot of things to a lot of people. So the way that Julie put it was the how and why for what we all do together. It was to help discover that. On the external side, it was really to help us better articulate what we do and the strengths, the values that we have, and what we're capable of doing. But, you know, to the scientific community, to reviewers that review our proposals and our papers, but to better articulate what our advantages are and what our mission is. So like I said, we did interviews. Julie worked with the executive committee. This was presented to the FES Center investigators earlier in the fall. So the result of all that, I'll cut to the chase, is this. This is our brand pyramid. I learned a new approach, and this shouldn't come as a surprise to all you that picked up your shirts. I think they were embedded in the shirts. Is that right? So again, I'm not going to go through this in any great detail, but it starts with our mission and vision at the bottom, and it talks about we're at the forefront of academic and clinical research. We want to further neurotechnology to improve the quality of life with people with neural disorders and their families. We want to be a global leader in this kind of research. We're going to transfer our technology into clinical deployment, and we're going to influence the clinical and research worlds. Okay? And then we talk about our culture, and this is kind of the alliance that we pulled together in this center. We have scientists and engineers and surgeons and rehab specialists and urologists and a whole range of people. And so we have this collaborative open door mentality, and we're going to solve real medical problems through this combination of science, engineering, and clinical activities. Our points of differentiation are that we're a pioneer in FES. We have this great consortium of our institutional partners, and we're internationally recognized. We've had the funding from the VA, for example, for 25 years to run this center. We have a long life. We're firmly established, and we have a lot of, we've accomplished a lot, and we're known for a lot of work. But again, it all comes to that we're going to translate our academic innovation and knowledge into practice so that we can help people with disabilities. So like I said at the beginning, it starts and ends with using our innovation to help people that have neurological disorders. So that's our brand pyramid. The hope is that as members of the FES Center, we can look at this and at least have a feeling for the community, and we can use this then to drive other activities that we have. For example, marketing, the way our webpage looks, what are the constituents that we want to address, et cetera. And so the first example of that actually is our website. Brand new. It's still FEScenter.org, just publicly opened a couple days ago. The website, we have a number of constituents that we're trying to reach. We're trying to reach people who could benefit from our work. We're trying to reach our scientific colleagues. We're trying to reach the public. So we have a big list of we're trying to reach each other. So we had a big mission here, and I think that again we've done a fine job over the last year. If I could scroll here, you could see it scrolls at the top and has different aspects of the work we do. One of them's, this one is clinically oriented. There's one that's more technically oriented. There's one that's more outreach oriented. You can go to the top and find out things about the people. If you want to participate, it's a very interactive site, much more active than the previous one. So visit our website, it's brand new. Hopefully you'll find out something you didn't know. Okay, let's talk about publications and presentations. From a scientific perspective, this is a critical thing that we do. This is how we convince the rest of the research community that we are doing things that are worthwhile and innovative. And so publications are how we raise money to keep moving. So in the past year, FES Center investigators have had 80 peer-reviewed publications, and there's 22 that are submitted currently. We've had 113 conference and invited presentations, so this is a pretty good track record. I talked about our seminar series. This is last year's seminar series. We've had many years of a stellar group of people. Last year, we decided to look a little bit at some of our alums. So Maram Bixum, Mike Moffitt, Warren Grill, our alums. Dustin Tyler and Jeff Capadona are now on the faculty, but they're still alums. So, and we also had a rehab specialist, we had a neurosurgeon, and we had a neuroscientist. And so we had a range of disciplines. We co-sponsored each one of these with a different group. In this case, the neuroscience department, the neurosurgery department, physical medicine and rehabilitation. Okay. And this is this year's group. Nader was just here a couple weeks ago. A neurosurgeon. It says here Northwestern, but he's actually the new chair of biomedical engineering at Michigan. But we have a whole range of people: neuroscientists, a neural engineer, a specialist in autonomic function, a rehab specialist, brain interfacing. So again, we have a wide range of very prominent names in the field. So this one's already happened. The rest of them are still to come. So you can join us in person, and many of these are web streamed as well. So you can follow them that way. Okay, so more into the community outreach. Last year, we established an award called the James W. Jatich Memorial Award. Jim Jatich was a long-time participant in upper extremity research for decades. A real pioneer, did many things for us, and he passed away this past year. And we established this award in his honor, and it's to recognize participants who go beyond sort of the call of duty in helping us forward our research activities. So this year we actually awarded the first one. This is at the MetroHealth Medical Center. They have a spinal cord injury day, and we awarded it to Jim's family. So Jim's family, Jim was from the Akron area. He probably made thousands and thousands of trips from Akron to Cleveland as a result of his family members, and so we recognize them for their dedication to allowing Jim to participate. So that just happened back in September. We also have a number of outreach activities to high schools and to the CSU OT department. We go around the community again. This is I discussed the spinal cord injury forum a minute ago. We were very active in the Buckeye Wheelchair Games again this year. We were at the Health Expo that Channel 3 puts on each year. More nationally, and well, at least scientifically, we participated in the showcase, but we also had prominent prominent presentations at an event in New York City, in Washington. Megan Moynihan and Jen French put on TED Talks regarding functional electrical stimulation. Megan did one in Brussels, and Megan and Jen did one together here in Cleveland. So that gives us a lot of recognition. We also have an exhibition at a number of scientific meetings and clinical meetings across the country. So I won't go through these in great detail, but there's ones that are more scientific, there are ones that are very consumer-oriented, and there's ones that are clinically oriented. So we have a range of meetings where we have a booth, we have people there to explain what our work is all about. There are a couple awards that I just want to bring to everyone's attention. Very recently, several of our people went to the Neurotech Reports meeting, and the FES Center was awarded the best nonprofit in the neurotech field for strong research and advocacy. And Dustin Tyler, who's sitting somewhere in the back there, I think. No? Oh, he's outside doing something else. But anyway, he was awarded the best researcher. So this is the industrial group that represents the neurotechnology field. So this is nice to get this kind of recognition. Hunter Peckham, sitting here in the front, he became a National Academy of Inventors Fellow. Ron Triolo, who told me he couldn't come today and is the director of our partner center here in town, was made a fellow of the American Institute for Medical and Biological Engineering. So these are nice individual. You missed your minute in the sun, Dustin, sorry. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about research. This is why many of us are here. And I put up this slide really to have you say, wow, you guys do a lot of things. And we really do a lot of things. And I just wanted in one place to put a list, at least a conceptual list of the kinds of things that happen in the FES Center. So we do more basic research, and we do a lot of different things there. So we look at physiological mechanisms, the pathophysiology. We look at motor control, the way the body normally controls movements. We have extensive expertise in modeling and simulation. We have a long history of looking at stimulation mechanisms that continues to this day. Safe and effective stimulation still continues to this day. We have expertise in recording, in signal processing, in control systems, and in preclinical testing. So this is the kinds of work that you all do out in the audience and elsewhere around town. We do development work. So this is more engineering work. So we develop advanced electrodes. We develop implanted devices that stimulate and record. We innovate on surgical techniques and functional assessment techniques. We bring it all together. We bring these parts into systems that address specific disorders. That's systems integration. And we work very hard to translate these out into the world. We do all kinds of applications, and I'll give you some examples here in a second, but we do feasibility testing, kind of the first in human. We do a lot of musculoskeletal neuroprosthesis. This has been our bread and butter, continues to be. We do rehabilitation. We look at movement disorders based on brain disorders. Psychiatric disorders are a new area, for us at least. Pain is an old area that's becoming a new area. And visceral and autonomic functions are kind of new, but certainly growing very rapidly. Okay, so I'm just going to give a snapshot of some of the projects. I'm sorry if I didn't include you. Next time, send me examples, and maybe you'll get on the thing. So we do applications. This is some of the earliest work in the center is the work from Hunter and his group to restore hand function in people with spinal cord injury. My lab has extended that to arm movements, including hand function. Dustin's here. He's restoring sensation to people that have amputation. You can hardly miss him on the news these days. Okay, so We have Tony DeMarco over at Metro who's doing cough. We've had people previously that Tony was involved with, Ray Anders and others, Tom Mortimer, who have done respiratory pacing. Deep brain stimulation is work that Cameron McIntyre and others are pursuing. We're doing brain recordings with Baloo Ajaboy and myself. Dustin has done, preventing aspiration following stroke. Cameron is looking to improve clinical decision making for deep brain stimulation. Ken Gustafson is working on manipulating reflex pathways associated with the bladder to improve bladder function. John Che has done a lot of work on shoulder pain, on relieving shoulder pain through stimulation in the shoulder region. Brand new technology invented by Kevin Kilgore and Niloy Badra, which instead of activating the nervous system, deactivates the nervous system. So this is kind of in its infancy. The potential is enormous. The applications for that are very wide. Things like pain, like spasticity, where there's unnatural activity that you want to stop. We're doing prosthetic things. Dustin, I showed his slide on restoring sensation. I have a project to restore the motor control. The cough I mentioned, we have stroke rehab activities, and the only picture I could get was foot drop. So, Jamie, you can give me something next time. I'll put it on there. Okay, so we do a lot of stroke rehab. There's a big group over at Metro that work on stroke rehabilitation. So that's just a snapshot of our research. We do a lot of things. We have a lot of expertise, and so this is kind of backward looking, and I'll look forward in a few minutes. So let's talk about funding. So I did this last year, and I updated it, and I think the message is a little different, not too different. So this is the funding trends for the VA. So this is for the overall VA research budget. This is for the medical and prosthetics research. This is closest to the kind of work that most of us do. So this is adjusted for, I don't remember what year, 2014. So you see a little bit of a downward slope, but basically it's flat. The VA research has been basically flat for the last 4 years. This is for the medical and prosthetics research, and it's kind of the same. The actual has crept up, by 1% or something, but if you factor in inflation, it's actually drooped a little bit. So there's a little bit of a decline, but essentially the research funding is flat. And I might add, I didn't go back too many years, but if you go back further, it's declined a little bit, but it's plateaued, and it's plateaued at its peak. It hasn't dropped by half or something. It's still at the top. NIH has a similar situation, although the decline, this little droop here is a little bit, the inflation adjusted droop is a little bit more. Again, NIH, this goes back a little further, so you can see the ramp up of the funding. It's plateaued more or less. This was the sequester last year. This was when there were stimulus funds. So there's a bump here and a little bump there, but it's basically flat. But if you adjust for inflation, it has dropped, and it's dropped by something like 20% over that time because of inflation. So it's not an insignificant amount. But still, it's not dropped to 1994 levels either. If you look at the institutes that many of us seek funding from, this is this is for neurological things. This is for rehab typically, and this is more for sort of development, imaging, and bioengineering, which has it just started in 2002, and it's had a pretty flat budget pretty much since 2003. And INDS is much larger, but the trends are very similar. Near the peak, drooping slowly because the total amounts are similar every year, and inflation takes a little bit of a bite. So this is what the FES Center has done in the past year. So our funding last year was $17.6 million. That was funding that the investigators were able to secure. Okay, so I'll just skip ahead a little bit. That's a big increase from last year. And it takes us back to our sort of better times before things got really, really, really tight. Our peak was in 2010, so we're right back up there. Our funding now, almost half of it comes from NIH. DOD is actually next with 26%. DOD comes and goes, but for last year it was a big contributor. And the VA is very steady, 20 to 30%. We get some funds from foundations, and there's a few others. So we are very heavily leveraged on federal funding. The vast majority of our funding comes from the federal government, and about half of it comes from National Institutes of Health. But again, we had a little bump up this year, and that's saying something. You know, the environment is not very friendly for researchers right now. It's very, you know, the funding rates vary a little bit. 5% in some cases of applications get funded, 10%. So this bump, this increase is due to increased productivity. I know people are grinding. You know, they're really putting in 2-3 times as many proposals as in the past. So unfortunately, I think this is the way it is for right now, but you know, you should applaud yourselves for being able to bring that up in a time when the tendency is for it to go down. The other thing that we can brag about is how well we do with these proposals. So these are the different agencies, and these are how many proposals were submitted by FES Center investigators, and then how many were funded. So a third of our VA proposals were funded. I don't know, a little bit less than a third of our NIH ones were funded, et cetera. Overall, we submitted 58 proposals and 24 were funded. That's 41%. That's way above the sort of the national average. And again, it's really a reflection of the sort of the sticking to it and the innovation that our investigators have shown. Okay, so we've done good in the past year. The coming year looks quite bright for our field, and there's a few reasons for that. The VA continues to fund, as I've said, career development awards, research career scientist awards, and merit reviews. These are still available to us. We have a pretty good hit rate on those. NIH has a couple of big initiatives that are really in our wheelhouse. So one of them is out already, the Brain Initiative, and you can check it out there. The Brain Initiative in its early year, the first year, was really extremely basic, very basic science, probably not in the realm of most of the people here. But that's changing, and as things go along, I'm reassured by many that there's going to be opportunities. As recently as last week, I talked to one of the NIH leadership, and they said that the trend is going to be for Congress to get a little bit nervous about funding things that nobody understands and they can't explain. So we have an opportunity there. The other one that's coming out and is actually part of, no, I have that wrong. I don't know if that's true or not. I won't say that. It's called Stimulating Peripheral Activity to Relieve Conditions. That sounds like something that we might do, and we might do very well. Now, the emphasis here is a little bit different than what we've done in the past, and I'll talk about it in a second, but this is going to be, as I was told, a big deal. So you need to check this out. I'll have a slide on this in a second. DARPA is also in the game pretty heavily. So I have haptics here with 2 exclamation points because Dustin Tyler just hit on a big proposal from the haptics initiative. And this is for prosthetics, this restore sensation in prosthetics. Another one is coming out very shortly that's called electrics. And you know, they have good acronym makers at DARPA apparently, but this is focused on using electrical stimulation in applications that have typically been treated with drugs. So that's why the RX here. It's the same as with the Spark. Okay, so I'll talk about this in a second, these two. GSK is already in this game, and in fact, they're probably driving the boat. They're the ones that are pushing this. They've funded 4 people already in the Cleveland community to do this kind of work. Kevin Kilgore and Niloy Badra have one of those. Dominique Duran has one of those. So GSK is a big pharma company. They haven't been a device company, but they're getting in. They're big compared to device manufacturers, and they are pushing people around, and they're changing the lay of the land a little bit. It's quite interesting. The device manufacturers are very interested in this as well. The Medtronics, the Boston Scientifics, et cetera. So I'm not going to go through this in any detail, but I put this up here again to show this is the kind of things that we have done for a long time. So deliver a detailed integrated functional anatomical neural circuit map, and this is for 5 organ systems. They want tools, electrical stimulation tools. Also, it could be optogenetics or other things. Partner with industry and the FDA. So the difference here is that these are focused on visceral systems, on autonomic systems, things that control heart rate and the bladder and the liver, the pancreas. Okay, many different things. It's the same thing with the electrics initiative. They want to be able, in this case, they want to focus on recording some activity or some pathological condition, do something by stimulation of the nervous system in a much more targeted way than has been done previously with using drugs. So these are fantastic opportunities for us. We have that skill set in spades, okay? We probably need to collaborate with people that know these organ systems and their diseases, very similar to the way that we've partnered with spinal cord injury experts and stroke experts in the past. Okay. I'm going to talk about some initiatives for pretty much the rest of my talk. So this is what we have been doing the past year, what we plan to do in the coming year. So most of these things I've talked about in the gray here. What I want to talk about a little bit are new technologies that we have coming out, the way that we can expand our existing applications, new applications, and expanded industrial collaborations. So much to their chagrin, I took a picture of this team here today because they're remarkably stealthy when it comes to pictures. I couldn't find anything. So Hunter Peckham and Kevin Kilgore are the investigators. This is the core engineering team of the network neuroprosthesis. It's been in development for a number of years now. It's a fully implantable network system. It's very flexible in its configuration. It's a fantastic research system, can be configured to be complicated or simple, and they're endeavoring to obtain regulatory approval. So the system exists on the bench, need to have FDA approval. So hopefully that'll be soon. This enables many things. This enables applications to the peripheral neuromuscular system that we've done before, that we've wanted to do before. We can combine many different functions, hand grasp with seated posture, with bladder, with many other things. We could also apply it to these autonomic problems that I just talked about. We can apply these. These could be used to do brain stimulation and recording. So this is a game changer in terms of technologies and the kinds of applications that we can do. I talked about the visceral and autonomic functions a little bit. This is just a textbook diagram of the autonomic nervous system and the organs it controls, and it controls a lot of things. Okay, so we need to learn how to apply our technologies to the vagus nerve and to the rest of the autonomic nervous system. There are many applications here. I was at the Biomedical Engineering Society meeting last week, and a leader from Medtronic spoke, and he had 6 or 7 slides about this. Okay, so this is on the minds of the industry. It should be on our minds as well. And basically, like I said, GSK calls these electroceuticals. Very clever. They didn't do the acronym. They just made up a new word. But again, the idea is to replace drugs with targeted stimulation, fewer side effects, et cetera. There are people that are already doing some of this in the FES Center. There's a lot of opportunities for funding, and we have the technology, the neural interfacing, kind of the clinical expertise to do these kinds of systems. Okay. Movement disorders, stroke, psychiatric disorders. This is especially stroke and movement disorders have been in our portfolio for quite some time. Psychiatric disorders is a newer one. Several of us went in on a proposal that ultimately wasn't funded, but I think it's the tip of the iceberg. The kinds of DBS activities, there are, first of all, very large populations with depression, bipolar disorder, many psychiatric disorders. We need to understand the mechanisms. We can contribute there. Biomarkers is a catchword that's that's out there a lot. Can we record things from the brain, other kinds of sensor information to determine when somebody is in need of treatment, and then deliver the appropriate treatment? We have expertise in doing this from other applications. And it really leverages the work that Cameron has done and with his clinical partners, and it's of great interest to the medical device industry. The last area here is pain. Again, it's not new. John Che has been doing shoulder pain and other pain work with Rich Wilson for quite some time. I talked a little bit about the work of Kevin and Niloy on the block. They're using this for amputee pain and other things now, and it has other applications. A few years ago, Tom Mortimer invented spinal cord stimulation for pain mitigation, and I won't say when that was, Tom, but it was a while ago. It was his PhD dissertation, and essentially, spinal cord stimulation is the same as it was then. And it works in about half of the people, and they get about half relief. So there's a lot of room for improvement there. It is the #1 application of neurostimulation of all applications. Scott Lemke is working on this to better understand the mechanisms of spinal cord stimulation and to optimize the outcomes. This is a very fruitful area, and it's a big market. Okay, I'm going to segue a little bit into industry cooperation. So I put this up. This is from an NSF report. There's a whole, it's extremely detailed, but what I want to show you here is who does the research and who pays for it. So this is who does it. Well, maybe let's say who pays for it. Well, the green thing here is business. So in the United States, businesses pay for 63% of all research that's done. The federal government pays for about 26%. Universities only about 3%. Who does it? Again, businesses do 69% of all research and development in the U.S. Universities do about 15%, and the federal government does about 12%. So if I was an alien that landed on Earth, I'd say, I think I want to go to businesses to get to if I want to do research. Now, it's not quite that simple. They have very targeted sort of goals for their research, but still, they fund a lot of it. Okay? And the area that many of us do our research in is also growing rapidly. So this is now a few years old, but this was a projection for the medical device industry, and the sort of the yellow things here are for cardiac applications, and as you can see, they're pretty flat. But the non-cardiac, what's it called, neurodevice growth is much greater. So it's growing quite rapidly. And with these new applications that are coming out, there's going to be even more opportunities. So we're not sitting still, and I introduced Cameron earlier as the Associate Director for Industrial Relations. He is the investigator level leader of this. He has had a lot of experience with working with industrial partners, and we've relied on him heavily to get some entree. We've hired Andy Cornwell to be our Director of Strategic and Industrial Collaborations. So Andy is out there on the road a lot, talking to companies, talking to potential academic partners, helping us respond to major federal initiatives that are complex and difficult to pull the teams together. So we're trying. That's the strategic part. The industrial part is going out and having discussions with potential industrial partners. So this is what we're trying to do. Industry is our primary pathway for getting our innovations into the clinical world and having an impact. So aligning our mission a little bit closer, more closely to theirs is critical. We can do this in a way that we maintain our independence, that we can innovate, but we have to find a way to align with their mission, because that's the way we're going to impact people. Okay. So basically what we're trying to do is to put together this partnership of clinicians, industry, and our FES Center investigators. The clinical partners, they know what the clinical problems are. They can champion our interventions when we demonstrate that they're effective. Our partners have expertise that we don't have. They understand the markets. They have engineers, buildings full of engineers with tremendous experience. They have manufacturing, fabrication capabilities that we don't have, and they give us a potential pathway to clinical deployment. You as investigators, the role that you play in this is that you can go and say, okay, to a potential company partner and say, what is it that you need? And determine if you can provide that to them in a way that is innovative, interesting to you, enhances your own career. But the card that you have is that you can do things that they can't do, because they have every quarter they have to publish their profit and loss. We can take risks. We can de-risk things with that, good innovative ideas. We can do some of the early work with or without them, but we can use them as a guide in some of our work. Okay, getting close here. So this is my preaching slide, if you think I haven't been preaching already, but this is about our kind of suggestions for research strategies. So first of all, there is research funding available. It's at the top. It's near the top of what it ever was. Yes, it's sunk a little bit, but it's still, there are a lot of investigators, I understand. You're going to have to compete, but there is funding available. It's not that there's no funding. You need to be bold and innovative. So doing incremental things, I serve on review panels. I'm sure a lot of you do too. It just doesn't fly anymore. Just because you've been doing that and you've done it successfully, it's what have you done for us lately? And you really need to take bold steps, move things forward. We all have a lot of skills. We learned them in school. We've done them in our research. We can apply them in new ways. We have modeling and simulation skills, signal processing skills, neural interfacing skills. We can apply these to new problems. Don't get stuck in applying it to the same problem you've always done. You need to be strategic. So what is it that society wants from the medical field, from the clinical field? Good question, but you need to think about that every once in a while. Is this relevant? Is this really what the most important? Is this the most important thing that I can work on right now? And collaborate. There's many. The collaborations are very rich. The clinicians know what the problems are. They know if it'll be accepted clinically. They can champion it, like I said before. External groups have expertise that we don't have. Many of us work with external groups for that reason. I strongly encourage that you target, try to collaborate with the best people in the field. And like I said before, industrial partners are going to be very important for us in the future, and I think we can have a much stronger impact on the clinical world by doing that. Okay, one last slide, or two slides actually. The state of the FES Center, so that's what this is called. And I just want to point a few things out that I've already said. So in terms of our accomplishments, I think we are a global leader in neurostimulation research. We have strong support from our clinical partners, and I think we bring them real value. Our research funding was really strong this past year. We went up significantly over the previous year. We've done some self-reassessment, some evaluation to determine who we are internally and what do we project outside. We do a lot of outreach to the community, to the scientific world, to the clinical world. We have a new website, which is an important component of that outreach. We have a new approach to regulatory affairs, which I kind of skipped over, so I'm sorry about that, but we contract now with the University Hospital CTSC Regulatory Affairs Group to do our regulatory affairs. So we have a contract with them. If you have work to do, let Cheryl know, and we can arrange that. We're hoping that this grows into a big operation that can do the full range of regulatory activities for us. We've consolidated our space a little bit. The administration of the FES Centers moved to the VA Medical Center. And as I talked before, we have several opportunities to expand our research scope. It's already expanding. It'll expand regardless of what we do, but we can get on that wave and expand it even more. So there's many opportunities. We may have new institutional partners a year from now. And we hopefully will have new FES technology a year from now. There are many new applications of neurostimulation out there that are waiting for us to grab it. We have a strong new emphasis on reaching out to industrial partners, and federal funding opportunities look right now very, very good for us. They're very targeted to things that we have expertise in and are interested in working on. So that's it. This is last year, so thank you very much for coming today, and I hope to see you again next year. Thanks.